What's up, friends? Today we are here with a brand new project never before seen on the channel. Parts behind me may look familiar to some of you, but some others, maybe it's your first time seeing a one wheel taken apart into a bunch of boxes. Today we are starting our build of our very own VESC wheel. This is a 100% DIY build, starting from just parts and going all the way up to a fully functional one-wheeled device. I'm super excited to start this VESC wheel, and I hope you guys will stay along with me for the journey. Let's get on with it. Alrighty, this is a brand new project on the channel. Just like I mentioned before, I've actually never built a one wheel before from scratch or modified one or anything like that. However, I have watched a lot of Mario Contino, and he's one of my friends, so we chatted about this project a bit before, and I have a pretty good idea of how to put this all together. And if you want to check out Mario's channel, I'll link him down below in the description. He's got a lot of great stuff about DIY one wheels and VESC wheels and how to tune them, and I'm going to be following some of his videos in order to make sure that this gets done properly. Now, today we're just going to go over the parts that I selected and show them off, and then in the next video I'll be building the battery, because that kind of takes the longest, and then in the video after that we'll probably be assembling most of the board, and maybe we'll get it running after that. I don't really know yet. We'll just kind of have to play things by ear and see how it goes. But today we're going to talk about the parts. Now, one thing you'll notice off the bat is that there's a lot of stuff from Float Life. TheFloatLife.com is where I got a bunch of this stuff, and they have a ton of awesome gear. They also make really cool YouTube videos, so you should check them out if you haven't before. But to start off the build, I've got some rails. They're called the WTF rails from the Float Life, and they are a little bit better in some ways than the one wheel stock rails for riding. At least that's what I've heard. And for reference here, this build is going to be an XR based build, not a pint, not a GT, but an XR one. So the rails are XR sized, and things that are on an XR would fit on this, including enclosures and stuff like that. So we've got our beautiful rails here. These are the gunmetal silver ones from the Float Life, and they look absolutely incredible. Like I said, I haven't built these before, but these look incredible, and I'm super excited to put these on the build. So I'll get some B-roll of this to put on the screen, but super happy with the finish on these, the machining, all the threads and everything like that. And these are going to be a great starting point for bolting everything together. In terms of other options for rails in an XR based build, you can really get started in a lot of different places, but one of the easiest ways is to pick up a set of rails from someone who's selling them used. Now, I got these a long time ago. I want to say like 3 years ago, thinking I was going to start my one wheel build. Here we are today in 2024, finally starting it, but these are standard XR rails. They're straight and flat. If you notice, the WTF rails have a little bit of a concave at the ends, and that makes it a little bit more comfortable to get grip on trails and stuff like that, as far as I know. But I've got these here. I don't need them, so I'm just going to be selling them. If you're interested in getting a pair of XR rails for pretty cheap, let me know, and I will sell these to you. But this is an example of what you could use. I got these for a decent price a long time ago, and they're still pretty popular. In fact, buying used XRs on Facebook Marketplace is a great place to start a VESC build as well, because what you can do is strip everything out of it and then put in your VESC. You can put in a better battery and stuff like that. So definitely consider the option of starting with a used or broken one wheel. But for me, I decided to get new rails because they were on sale on Black Friday, and I really wanted to try them out. If you want to look somewhere else for new rails, there are a lot of other aftermarket one-wheel companies that sell different variants of wheels, or of rails that are thicker or longer or stronger, or they look more cool. I'll put a couple lists on screen or some B-roll of websites or something to show what other options I saw when I was looking around. But I had heard good things about the Float Life ones, and I've seen lots of them on other people's wheels, as well as ridden a pair of them, and they felt pretty good to me. So that's why I picked those. Next up, let's go to the tire, which is another big thing sitting on the desk here. This tire is the Float Life Enduro tire. Like I said, lots of things from the Float Life, lots of great stuff. This tire was actually from the very first set of Enduro tires that they ever made. So that gives you an idea of how long I've been acquiring parts for this build. But it looks nice. I think that this tread pattern will be a good blend of off-road and on-road. And from what I've seen, it's fairly flat, so it's not as carvy as some of the perfectly round ones. But again, I've actually tried this on a friend's board, so I like it. And it'll be interesting figuring out how to put this onto the hub motor, because I think that'll be quite challenging with how large and thick it is. But there are tons of tires available for OneWheels. You could probably make an entire 30-minute video just talking about tires. In fact, Mario might have made one of those, so maybe I'll link that if I see it. But there's a lot of different options: street tires, grippy tires, treaded tires. I kind of went in the middle, and I think it'll be a good choice for the starting of this build. All right, the next important thing in the OneWheel is the controller. And for me, I'm going to be using a little Fokker, which is a VESC. And this is technically a little Fokker V3. I believe it's up to 3.2 now with some minor improvements, but this one should work great for my purposes. There are a couple different options for VESCs if that's what you're looking to do. There is one from Tronic. There is one from U-Box. Actually, there might be two from U-Box. There's two from U-Box. There's the Tronic. There's another one called the Thor. There's also the Raiden from VESC. I don't know if they're still making that one. I haven't seen it for a while, but in terms of other options, I think Float Wheel might be making one in the future. And there used to be one called the Balance Pro. I don't know if that still exists anymore. I'd have to look it up, but there's a couple different options. I'm going to be using the little Fokker V3. Pretty easy to set up, and there's a lot of guides out there on how to do this properly with this specific ESC. So I know Mario has had good results with this, and I think I will as well. Now, the thing that goes inside of the tire and is powered by the controller is the motor. And the motor is a very important piece of a OneWheel, and inside this box is my Superflex motor. Now, this is actually a V1 Superflex motor from the pre-order. Again, it's giving you an idea of how long I've been acquiring these parts. But in there is the Superflex motor with Hall sensor, and I'm super excited to use that. I know it has a lot of power. You can run it pretty hard. So I think this will serve my purposes great, especially for a first wheel. In terms of other motor options, you have a couple different ways you can go. You can go the used route and use a XR Plus, I think. I can't remember Plus or not, but an XR motor will work. You can use a VESC on that. There are new 5-inch hubs that are pretty cool. A lot of people have enjoyed those a lot. There used to be the P hub, which was made by a Chinese company, I think Pei Scooter, something like that. People used to use those. Spintend has one, and there's a couple others out there, but Superflex is well regarded, and a lot of people are using it. I also believe that either Float Wheel or Fungineers has one. Maybe I'll put it on screen if I find it, but Superflex is good, and that's what I'll be using. In terms of the battery, I've got some raw cells here, a bunch of 50S cells. I talked to Mario about this for a little while, and kind of going back and forth on if I wanted to use P45B or 50S, and I ended up settling on the 50S because I don't think I'm going to ride it too hard. I'd rather have a little bit more range than a tiny bit more power. So we got the Samsung 50S cells here, and I technically bought 40 of them, but I'm only going to be doing an 18S2P build because it's a lot easier to fit in my enclosures. Once you go to a 20S build, you either have to have a special enclosure. I think there's one that can fit 20S, or you have to do a split pack where you put a couple of cells in the front and then the rest are in the battery box. And I just really don't want to deal with that trouble, especially on my first build. So 18S2P of 50S cells from Samsung will work out well, and it'll give me a good bit of range, at least according to Mario and according to the people that I've ridden with, but it should be pretty good. Now, there are a couple other important parts that hold all these things together. So you've got the rails on the sides of the board, you've got the motor in between them, and then you've got things that need to connect the rails to each other. And there are two things that do that. One is the bumpers on the bottom, and the other is the enclosures. So for enclosures, my battery enclosure is the torque box from the float wheel, which is on the bottom here. I'll go ahead and pull that out real quick to show it off. The torque box is a clear plexiglass, sorry, not plexiglass, a clear polycarbonate, oh, this is the wrong box. It's a clear polycarbonate box that holds your battery, and it is very strong and molded in one piece. There it is, torque box. And I got this for a really great deal on Black Friday last year. And it comes with a metallic plate that goes on top, as well as the hardware needed to close it. But this is what it looks like. It comes with the inserts, the heat set inserts pre-installed. These screw directly into the rails on the sides and hold the rails to each other. Now, inside of this will be the 18S2P battery, as well as the rear light strip. And then we'll screw it down with this nice stamped metal aluminum plate. And then that's got a gasket on the back. You can kind of see that there to keep the rain or damp moisture out. And that'll be very important because we don't want to have to take this apart all the time. One of my goals with this one-wheel project was to be able to build it and then never have to touch it again. I just want to ride it, use it for filming, have fun with it, and not have to worry about pulling it apart for little maintenance things. So there's the torque box. And then underneath the torque box, we have a couple things. We have the bumpers, and then we also have the, what are they called? So these are bang bumpers. And then I also got the torque bumper because this is specifically compatible with the torque box because it's a little bit of a different shape. So we've got this nice blue gray torque bumper from Float Life. Looks great, super strong, and this will mount to the rails as well as the box. So, and then it's got little holes in the front for the lights to shine through. So super stoked on that. Looks really nice, the finish is great, the plastic molding is great. Very happy with the quality of these parts from Float Life. So there's your torque bumper. And then for the other side, which is the like normal XR size enclosure, we've got a standard bang bumper from Float Life as well. And that just looks like this. It's just a matte black one, super simple, and it's got the handle on it. This screws into the rails, holds them together, super strong. This thing is very thick. And it's got a couple inserts heat set into it as well, and those will screw onto the lid, I think, or on, no, it'll screw onto the ends of the rails. So pretty cool. Now, there's honestly not too many more parts to go through. Once we sort of get into this, you'll realize that one wheels are a little bit simpler in some ways than electric skateboards because they only have a single wheel and almost no drive system. So that's all those parts. On top of the front enclosure, we have some foot pads, and regrettably, I did actually have to buy these directly from OneWheel. I'm not the hugest fan of some of their business practices, so I didn't really want to buy any OneWheel parts, but this was the best budget-friendly option to get a sensor pad and foot pad. So in here is two pads. one goes on the rear, which is this one. It's a piece of wood with some grip tape on it, and it mounts onto the top of the rail. And then in the front one, you have your force pad sensor. And it is sort of baked into this underneath the grip tape. And then there's a connector that comes out the bottom. And basically what this does is it senses when you're standing on the board, so it can activate and deactivate the motor as necessary. So that's what we got for our sensor pads and foot pads. Now you can upgrade these to ones from Float Life in the future, but I wanted to start with the base wood pads and see what they're like, and then if I want to upgrade in the future, I'll probably make another video on it and see what the difference is. Now, like I mentioned, there are two enclosures, and the other enclosure I actually 3D printed myself. Now, I'll put a link in the description for where I got this file from, but I went ahead and printed it out in carbon fiber nylon. It's actually called PAHT, and it's from Bamboo Labs. I printed this out on my Bamboo Lab X1C, and it just came out super awesome. Really great quality. I did dry the film up really well first, but it's super strong, and I'm super stoked to be able to print something like this to use for the build instead of buying something that costs like $300. Inside of this will be the speed controller and the light buck converter, the front light strip, and then on top of this will be the force sensor pad, and then the wires will run into that. This will also have a connector on it for the motor. It's one of these on the sides, and then it will also have a charge port. So this one is super important, and it's got a lot of parts to it. The top and bottom of this one are two more printed parts from polycarbonate. These are pretty strong and a little bit flexible. This one will go on the bottom, and then on the top there's this ridged one, and then underneath these ridges I bought a metal plate from Mario Contino, and this is basically just a flat aluminum plate that you can mount the little Fokker to heat sink it. This screws down onto the top of this enclosure, and then this plastic piece goes on top of that, and the ridges are so that there's air, able to be airflow through it. And then on top of that you put the foot pad. So it's kind of like a multi-layer stack there. But those are all those parts. And then also from Mario, I got these pre-cut foam gaskets that will be able to keep the water out of this rear enclosure. There's only a couple miscellaneous parts left, so I'm just going to talk through those real quick. One of those is this cable. Now this is super random, but this is an ease of use sort of thing. In order to make a one wheel the most water resistant possible, you really want to have a single cable going from the front to the back of the board through cable glands, which are essentially metal or plastic fittings that squeeze really tightly onto the cable and keep water from going in and out of your enclosure. So to that end, I purchased this cable from Mario as well. And basically what this is a multi-conductor wire. It's got positive, negative, Hall sensors, and a couple other additional wires in there. And you can cut off the end, and then you can solder each of the individual wires to whatever they need to go to. And then all you have is one cable that goes through the side rail from the front to the back enclosure, and that covers everything. So that's going to be super useful since the battery's at the back of the board and the speed controller's at the front. This is what will transfer the power there, and then the data as necessary. So we got that. That's surprisingly expensive. That was like 30 bucks for that piece of cable because it's expensive cable and it's custom made. Also from Mario, I bought some pre-cut nickel strips, which are going to make building the battery quite a bit easier. They have pre-cut balance tabs on them, and these will speed up the battery building process a lot. So those will go with the battery cells. And then also with the battery, we have a Z BMS. Now, my friend Joey Z, aka Z Battery Systems designed this BMS from the ground up, 100% from scratch. You can see, let's see if it'll focus. ZBMS right there. This is the V3, and this is a non-Bluetooth BMS, but a very well-designed BMS that will balance and keep your pack in check. It's got a little heatsink on it. It's got its balance connectors. It's got a thermistor, and it's got plugs pre-wired to connect to your battery and to your charge port. That will be very great to use, and I'm looking forward to incorporating that in my battery build. I highly recommend that you support the original creator, Joey Z at Z Battery Systems, as he designed this from the ground up, including the well-documented user manual. And some Chinese companies have completely ripped it off, stolen it. I'm not going to name them here because I don't want to get them traffic. But if you've seen a battery BMS of this design in this shape, a 24S BMS, he designed it. So please support Joey. I'll link his page down in the description. There's one tiny little piece left here of my parts on the table, and that is this little tiny buck converter. I really want to put lights on this board, and so I talked to Mario about it. He's making a video on how to do lights with a VESC-based board, and you need this little thing that converts the voltage from the battery down to the voltage that the lights run at. And then the lights plug into the VESC, and you get your forwards, backwards, red and white. So this is a important little thing. I think it was like 25 bucks off of Mouser. I think that's where I got it. But when we get to that, I'll tell you more about it. So that pretty much covers all the parts that are on the table. As far as other parts that you'll need for the build, you're going to want to have a couple other bits and bobs to finish it off properly. There's these Switchcraft connectors that connect to the sense pad, as well as the sensor connector for the motor. And these are water resistant. They're also very expensive. I believe it's like $30 per pair or per connector. I can't remember, but I got one of these. I think I have another one in my box somewhere, but there's also other things you might want, like these gaskets and grommets, glands, charge port, power button. All these things I will show off when we actually put it all together. But that pretty much covers all of the basic parts that you need to build a DIY VESC wheel. And in the next video, we will be starting our battery build. Should be fairly straightforward. It is only a 2P battery, but there are a bunch of little caveats that have to be paid attention to when you're building something in a constrained space, such as this torque box, and also that you're standing directly on top of. One of the things that's really important to remember is that batteries should not be ever compressed from the sides where they have a metal can. You want to make sure the battery is properly insulated from all metal surfaces, that you have fish paper where it's appropriate, and that you also properly insulate your balance wires, and make sure that there's no kink points throughout your build. Now, when it comes to batteries, I'm pretty experienced with building batteries at this point, but Mario Contino also has a bunch of battery build information on his website. You can check out his website down below in the description with his information. I will be using his guides to help inform my battery builds and make sure that everything goes smoothly. I'm pretty sure I could come up with a way to fit it in there myself, but since people have already done that hard work, I might as well just follow their example and make sure it's done right. Like I said, I want this to just run and run and run. I want to use this as a filming machine. I think it's going to be really awesome, especially to film with a gimbal with 2 arms and be able to actually hold it in front of me without having to worry about having a controller in my hand. I also want to take it off-roading, go on things with friends, and just mess around with it. So I'm really looking forward to this build. I hope you guys are excited for something new on the channel. I know I am, and I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know if you have any major questions down in the comments below, and leave a like if you're excited for this series. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.